Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin. I'm here with my co-host James Haskell, and we're not going to be discussing a Ravens news in this video, but we will be talking a former Raven great getting a new home, finding a new place to show his talents. Jimmy, tell him what's going on.
Look, your main man Joe Flacco, the ultimate conundrum, is going to be playing for the Jets, the Meadowland Jets.
The Jets, Jets. Yes, he signs a 1-year deal with $1.5 million guaranteed and another $3 million in incentives, so it could be worth up to $4.5 million. And good for him because he underwent some neck surgery back in April. So they don't know if he'll be ready for camp or preseason, but they do hope he's ready come week 1 of the regular season if it does happen. Hopefully it will. But yeah, so happy for Joe. I'm surprised because we know he doesn't need the money. But I think if I remember correctly, that's who I predicted he would sign with, or I was hoping he would sign with, because I think it's a great addition for the Jets. I mean, to get a guy who's a proven player like Joe, obviously on the back end of his career, but a guy that could come in and show Sam Darnold what it is to be a pro. There's no, he is a pro's pro. He'll look great in training camp. He'll have the writers busy writing the story because he comes in every training camp. He looks phenomenal. The guy can make every throw. He might not be open in the gym, and he might not be, the last one leaving, turning the lights out when he leaves, but he'll show up. He's a 9-to-5er, and he'll look darn good in practice. He'll be there for the off-season program, especially being a new guy to the team. So I think it's a win-win. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a win-win. The only sucky part for him is that, $4.5 million, even if he maxes out that contract, is a serious downgrade in comparison to what he's made for the past few years. So he's going to have to get used to that. A little bit of not necessarily like you said, he doesn't need it, but there's got to be some sort of pride in play, right? The other thing, too, is I wonder – so they've definitely struggled in the game. They haven't won a single game. Since Sam Darnold has been their starter, they have not won a single game when he's out. So they've struggled at the backup quarterback position, so that's really important. But I wonder how much Joe also sees this as an opportunity to sneak in there and say, look, if he gets hurt and I got the hot hand, they're going to ride with me. And the AFC East is wide open.
No, I got to agree with that in the sense that if you look around the league, if there's any position, first of all, there's no way anybody's going to bring him in to compete for a starting job at this point in his career, coming off of a pretty serious neck injury. And also, even before the injury, he wasn't necessarily successful with the Broncos. I think he went 2-6 before the injury. So not necessarily lighting up the world, but you're right. I think Sam Darnold, he got mono last year, so it's not like he's, necessarily prone to injury or showing that with the mono diagnosis. But he's missed time, and even when he has been in there, there's been some doubts. Now, I think most people agree that he looks like he has a pretty high upside and a bright side, a bright future in his career. But I think you're right. I think Flacco's best shot at maybe getting in there is a team like the Jets. But ideally for the Jets, he's nothing more than a mentor and a good, scout quarterback for the defense, help get the defense ready for the following week. And he just helps develop Darnold into the future franchise quarterback they're hoping he will become. But, yeah, if you needed to maybe say he goes out for 3 games, you could count on Joe to win 1 or 2 of them, right? At least be serviceable.
Look, this is the one thing that I know. Never met Joe Flacco in my life, but I know about Joe Flacco. He is not a Mark Sanchez type guy who just said, I'm just going to be a backup and a mentor. Who's the guy that was in Philadelphia? I always forget his name. He's got the hard comb over, the Texas accent. He played when Carson Wentz went out. McCown.
Yeah, and tore his hamstring off the bone or something.
So, look, Joe is not McCown. Never will be. So, just to stir the pot here, and before I get into my point, I pose a question to you, Glenn, because one of the things you mentioned I don't necessarily agree with, where there's no team that would bring him in to compete for a starting spot. So this is my only thought, is that if you had to play right now, even with Joe's health issues, we'll say that he clears and he's fine, right? If you had to start today a team with Nick Foles or Joe Flacco, who are you going with?
That's a good question.
And
so you're saying the Bears could have brought him in, is what your point was?
Nick Foles has an opportunity to compete for a starting job.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with Nick Foles because of the injury and the fact that Flacco, if you look at his last 3 years, or last 2 years when he was playing, it wasn't that pretty. But I understand your point. I think that Foles is Chicago's the one other spot he may have been able to go where he could have had a good opportunity to play. But yeah, I mean that would probably be it. And you get Flacco a whole heck of a lot cheaper. So that's certainly interesting because Foles is getting a decent amount of money. So yeah.
I only pose that question because I still think that we know how Joe is, where when the money's on the line, Joe comes to play, right? Or when his pride's on the line, like Joe usually comes to play. When the lights are bright, Joe usually shows up. So all I'm saying is that like Darnold's been a little shaky. If he comes out and he's floundering around, there's going to be people in New York calling for his spot and wanting to see Joe out there because, like you said, he's going to look good in camp. He's going to look good in practice. And we all know that if Joe just gets in the playoffs, there's at least a shot, right?
He could do like what Foles did when he took over for Wentz, right when they're getting the playoffs. Now, look, I don't think that the Jets, even though you mentioned the AFC East being down, obviously with the departure of Tom Brady, I still think it's the Bills' division to lose, and I don't like the Jets that much to win their division. So I don't think we're going to have to worry about much postseason heroics from Joe because I don't think they'll really be there. But here's my question. I wonder how much Joe really wanted to start, how much desire because, of course, back in the day, up to this point, he's always had that desire to be the number one guy. But his body's beat up. It's not like he's healing like he once did. And so why not just collect a nice paycheck? You get to practice with that nice red jersey on so no one's going to hit you, and you go home with a nice contract and you get to play with your kids. So I don't know how much he still wanted to play. Do you think he was still looking to hopefully be a starter, or do you think he's happy being a backup?
Yeah, this one surprised me because Joe, not the most vocal guy, but definitely doesn't lack when it comes to pride, right? So, I think the fact that he was, like you said, he's a homebody. I believe he's a homebody. I don't know the guy. I'm talking like I know him. But like you said, I mean, he's from the area. He's going to be able to drive home every day, get home with his kids and home, not like the home he purchased in the area, but like this is where he grew up. This is where his family is. And so I think that, like you said, the idea of cashing a check, making $4.5 million while being home every night for dinner, never getting hit, sounds pretty appealing. And good on the Jets because I think Joe has to be, my opinion, top 5 backups in the NFL.
Yeah, I think it's safe. Yeah, absolutely. No doubt.
If it weren't a style thing, I think Joe's a better backup than RG3, but stylistically, in our scenario, in our offense.
It depends on the system, who you'd take in that. Yeah.
It's perfect for the Jets based on what they run and Sam's ability. So at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a win-win if he wants to be out there, but I'm not saying definitively that he's going to be okay after those games start with just sitting back there. And if Sam starts floundering, dude, I'm telling you, people are going to be clamoring.
Well, in New York, it doesn't take long. Yep. So I think you're right. I think it depends on what the expectations are right as the season's about to begin. If the fans are thinking, look, this is our chance, we should be able to win this division, then maybe you're right. But if they're thinking this is a rebuilding year, then why worry about getting to 6-10, 7-9? Then you have a middle of the road, draft pick. I don't know if I would want, if I was a Jets fan, I don't know if I would want them to. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know if they're we want to try and get better, or if we're still in the middle of this rebuild, and actually a worse record would give us a better pick. So it's just kind of hard to know what the expectations are as a Jet fan.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be interesting. The one last comment I'll make here is, I think the expectation, not a Jets fan myself, but based on the fact that they've retooled their offensive line, not saying that Sam has a plethora of weapons, but I think they want to see, assuming that he's going to be under less pressure, they want to see less mistakes.
Yeah. Well, they're going to need big performances out of a guy that we are very familiar with Brashard Perriman, because I don't know who else they have on the outside. They lost Robbie Anderson in the offseason to the Panthers. They still have Le'Veon Bell in the backfield, but if Sam Darnold and those receivers can't keep the defense back, then they're just going to load the box, and then Le'Veon's going to be in trouble and have some rough sledding ahead. So yeah, look, I don't think anyone expects the Jets to be much of anything in this upcoming season, but Joe Flacco can help Sam Darnold going forward in his career with just the knowledge. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's the MVP of the Super Bowl. So he can only give positive knowledge down to Darnold. And I think it's a win-win. And you got him for the cheap. I don't think the Jets hope he doesn't come close to that $4.5 million, because that probably means he's playing a lot more than they'd like him to. So it's a cheap deal to get a former Super Bowl MVP. So I think it's a win. And yeah, that's it.
Well, let us know what your guys' thoughts are. Make sure to leave your comments below, leave a like, and then also subscribe. Make sure you guys take a second just to hit the button that is going to be on either side of Glenn and I. And go ahead and subscribe so that way you can stay up with the NFL news, also Ravens news, and we'll be back soon.
See you.